The Battle of Thermopylae is one of the most legendary battles in history, and much of what we know about it comes from Herodotus, the father of history. His account in the Histories describes the heroic stand of a small Greek force, led by King Leonidas I of Sparta, against the vast Persian army of King Xerxes I. This battle didn't just happen out of nowhere. It actually started with the first Persian invasion of Greece, from 492 BCE until 490 BCE. King Darius, the first of Persia, attempted to conquer Greece. There were several campaigns. The first campaign in 492 BCE was led by the Persian commander Mardonius, who re-subjugated Thrace and forced Macedon to become a fully subordinate client kingdom within the Achaemenid Empire, also known as the Persian Empire. However, further progress was prevented when Mardonius's fleet was wrecked in a storm off the coast of Mount Athos. The following year, having demonstrated his intentions, Darius sent envoys to all parts of Greece, demanding their submission. He received it from almost all of them, but not from Athens and Sparta, both of which executed the envoys sent to them. With Athens still defiant, and Sparta now effectively at war with the Persians, Darius ordered a further military campaign for the following year. The Second Persian Campaign, in 490 BCE, was led by the Persian commanders Datis and Artaphernes. This expedition first headed to Naxos, which was completely destroyed, then went to the rest of the Cycladic island, annexing each of them into the Persian Empire. When the Persians finally reached Greece, they landed at Eretria, which they eventually captured. The people who survived were enslaved, and the city was burned. Finally, the expedition headed to Attica, landing at Marathon, en route to Athens. Here, King Darius and his Persians were defeated at the Battle of Marathon. After Darius died of old age, his son, Xerxes, planned an even larger invasion in 480 BCE. This was the year that the Battle of Thermopylae took place. This was the second Persian invasion of Greece. This invasion was launched by Xerxes, who sought to avenge his father. Xerxes gathered an enormous army and navy, drawing troops from across the Persian Empire, including from Egypt, Babylon, and India. According to Herodotus, the Persian army numbered over 1 million men, though modern historians estimate it was likely between 100,000 and 300,000. Still, an overwhelming force compared to the Greek defenders. In response to this threat, a coalition of Greek city-states, led by Sparta and Athens, decided to resist. The Greeks chose Thermopylae, a narrow mountain pass in central Greece, as their point of defense. They believed this bottleneck would neutralize the numerical advantage of the Persians. The Greek force at Thermopylae was relatively small. The main contingent was led by King Leonidas I of Sparta, who brought 300 elite Spartan warriors from his personal guard. These warriors, known as the homoioi, were the finest soldiers Sparta had, trained from childhood to be fearless warriors. Leonidas was also accompanied by around 7,000 other Greek soldiers, including 1,000 Phocians, 700 Thespians, 400 Thebans, and several hundred Arcadians and Corinthians. Despite their small numbers, these Greeks were highly disciplined and equipped with superior bronze armor, large shields, and spears, making them far better suited for hoplite warfare than the lightly armed Persian infantry. When Xerxes arrived at Thermopylae, he expected the Greeks to flee at the sight of his enormous army. However, the Spartans and their allies held their ground. According to Herodotus, Xerxes sent a scout to observe the Greek positions, and he was shocked to see the Spartans calmly combing their hair and exercising, a traditional preparation before battle. Xerxes, baffled by their behavior, waited 4 days, expecting them to retreat. Finally, he grew impatient and ordered his troops to attack. On the first day of battle, the Persian army advanced into the narrow pass of Thermopylae, where the Greeks had built a defensive wall. Xerxes sent wave after wave of Medes, Scythians, and other Persian troops against the Spartans. But the Greek phalanx formation proved impenetrable. The phalanx was a rectangular mass military formation, usually composed entirely of heavy infantry armed with spears, pikes, sarissas, or similar polearms tightly packed together. Using this tactical formation, the tightly packed Greek hoplites, with their long spears and overlapping shields, cut down the lightly armored Persians with ease. On the second day, Xerxes deployed his elite immortals, a unit of 10,000 heavily armed Persian soldiers. However, even they were unable to break through the Greek lines. The Greeks had trained to fight in tight formations, and their superior armor and weapons allowed them to repel every Persian assault. The Persians suffered devastating casualties, while the Greeks lost only a handful of men. After 2 days of frustration, Xerxes was approached by a Greek trader named Ephialtes, who revealed a secret mountain path around Thermopylae. This path, known as the Thermopylae path, allowed the Persians to bypass the main Greek defense and outflank them. Xerxes immediately dispatched his forces, led by Hydarnes, to take this route. The 1,000 Phocian troops guarding the pass were taken by surprise and retreated, allowing the Persians to descend behind the Greek army. This moment was the turning point for the battle. The Greeks were starting to lose for the first time in this battle. Realizing they were about to be surrounded, Leonidas ordered most of the Greek forces to retreat, but he and his 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, and 400 Thebans chose to remain and fight to the death. At dawn on the third day, Xerxes launched his final assault from both the front and the rear. The Greeks fought ferociously, using their spears until they broke, then switching to swords, and finally fighting with their bare hands and teeth. The Spartans, in particular, made a legendary stand, refusing to surrender even as they were gradually overwhelmed. Leonidas was eventually killed, and the remaining Greeks made their final stand at a small hill, where they were slaughtered by Persian arrows. After the battle, Xerxes ordered Leonidas's body to be decapitated and crucified, a rare act of disrespect, since the Persians usually honored brave warriors. However, his victory at Thermopylae came at a heavy cost. Thousands of Persian troops lay dead, and the delay had given the Greeks time to prepare their defenses. Thermopylae became a symbol of courage and sacrifice. A few weeks later, the Greeks, led by Themistocles, decisively defeated the Persian navy at the Battle of Salamis. In 479 BCE, the Greeks crushed the remaining Persian forces at the Battle of Plataea, ending Xerxes' invasion. Herodotus immortalized the battle in his histories, ensuring that the bravery of the 300 Spartans and their allies would never be forgotten. Xerxes survived this defeat, but would later, along with his eldest son, be assassinated by his minister Artabanus and other members of his court in 465 BCE. Another son, Artaxerxes I, went on to kill Artabanus and took the throne. After his death, the Achaemenid Empire started to fall into decline. Here are also some famous quotes found from Herodotus's account. When a Persian envoy told the Spartans to lay down their weapons, Leonidas replied, "Persians! Come and get them!" Another one was when a soldier warned that Persian arrows would block out the sun. A Spartan named Dieneces famously said, "Then we shall fight in the shade." And lastly, this is what the epitaph on the monument at Thermopylae reads, "Go tell the Spartans, strangers passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie." Anyway, in conclusion, the Battle of Thermopylae is one of history's most iconic last stands. Though a tactical defeat, it became a rallying cry for Greek unity and resistance against tyranny. Herodotus' account of the Battle of Thermopylae remains one of the most famous stories of heroism in history. The bravery of Leonidas and his 300 Spartans has been celebrated for centuries, proving that a small force, armed with discipline and courage, can stand against overwhelming odds. So the conclusion is that Herodotus' story of the Battle of Thermopylae is not just a tale of war. It is a story of bravery, sacrifice, and the undying spirit of freedom. It has been retold in literature, films, and modern culture, proving that the courage of the few can inspire generations.